Fall doesn't have to mean mountain cabins and scenic drives. In this episode, we're going to go beyond the leaves, sharing unique fall trips that most travelers haven't considered. Whether it's soaking in hot springs in the Azores, walking through Portugal's wine country, or immersing yourself in the vibrant culture of Oaxaca, these destinations offer a fresh way to experience autumn with fewer crowds and unforgettable stories. We're Scott and Melissa, the Sunshine Travelers.
We're all about exploring the world and sharing the journey with you. Whether you're a seasoned traveler, dreaming of your next adventure, or just here for the stories.
No matter where you are on your travel journey, we've got firsthand experiences, tips, and plenty of inspiration from some of the most amazing places on Earth.
So buckle up and get ready to travel with us.
So when most people think of fall travel, they picture colorful leaves, crisp air, and maybe a cabin in the mountains.
Which is beautiful. Don't get us wrong. And that's definitely what I think of. If you say fall trip, and I think that's because that was the kind of fall trips that we always did growing up. But there's a whole world of fall experiences out there that go way beyond leaf season as well. And it can be a great time to travel because it can be shoulder season, which can be our favorite time to go places.
Exactly. Fall can be the perfect time for unexpected adventures. So whether it's fewer crowds, it's better weather, or it's the chance to see some amazing places in a totally different light. Today, we're sharing some fall trips you might not have considered, but we think that you should. So whether it's going to be from volcanic islands to food festivals, from cultural celebrations and national parks that shine this time of year, this is what we're going to talk about today.
And in full disclosure, many of these are actually on our bucket list of places to visit, especially in the fall. So you're getting the benefit of our research minus one. One of them I've done, so stay tuned. I have a little to share about that. And so we hope that you will take advantage of that and either put these on your bucket list or just go ahead and book them, because now is the time to be booking those fall trips.
Well, let's start off with Portugal. So why Portugal in the fall, and where are you going to go?
So the Douro Valley in Portugal is actually one of Europe's oldest and most scenic wine regions. It is the birthplace of port wine, hence the name Portugal and Porto. But also it offers some splendid, red and white table wines. And so Portugal is just a place, especially if you're into wine, that you need to put on your fall bucket list. So what are you going to see, Scott?
And probably even if you're not into wine,
Yeah.
yes, they have great wine, but the views and the landscapes and everything that we saw of Portugal in our couple of times going there so far, I can't wait to see more.
And so in one of our trips, I actually went on a wine tour, not this particular region, and you didn't get to go. So I'm super excited to take you back because I really think that Portugal's wine is a hidden gem. I mean, especially because they don't export a lot. So it's not something that a lot of people are familiar with. So what are you going to see?
So this is their harvest season. And being in a wine country, doesn't matter whether you're out in California in the wine regions or you're in Italy, right in the heart of Tuscany or Umbria, but being in these wine regions, this is when they're harvesting the grapes and they're having lots of festivals and cultural celebrations celebrating that harvest. And the vineyards, the leaves are starting to kind of turn that golden color. And so this is a really good time to be there and experience in this part of Portugal.
What's funny is of all the different wine trips that we have done, we've never hit it in the harvest season. And so that's something that would be on, my bucket list is to experience at that time of year. We've always gone in the spring.
We did do a harvest one time. It was in the North Georgia mountains at Chateau Elan.
Yeah, that's true.
And they had it where you could get in and stomp the grapes and all those things.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
I wouldn't say that
Yeah.
that's the same. I wouldn't compare Chateau Hollande to this region. However, this region is known for having excellent wine, for having really good food, and a lot of history without having the price tag associated with like a Tuscany.
We mentioned this on our Portugal episode. So if you're interested in just like more about all in Portugal in general, we'll link that episode because we mentioned in that one that I went to that tasting and I came back to the hotel and I had what, like 5 or 6 bottles of wine. And you were like, what are you gonna do with those? Like, how are you gonna pack those in your suitcase? I was like, I don't know, but they were like €5 for the, €5 each. Like, and it's really good. And so I couldn't pass that up. So that is definitely, yeah, that's definitely something to consider. But Scott, there's a couple of different ways that you could see this area, right? So, I mean, you can always go, and just book your hotels and drive or take transportation. But there's also a couple of unique things that you could do. Tell us about that and then maybe which one you would pick.
So you guys know that we're huge fans of Max Adventure for self-guided tours, and they have them both for walking and biking in the Douro Valley. And so, depending on what you're interested in, it was interesting because when we interviewed Lauren from Max Adventure, I kind of said, I don't know about getting on a bike and going around and visiting these wineries and then having to get back on the bike again. And she said, "Oh, but that's where we've got you taken care of because often on like these bike trips, they're having you bike to the winery and then you're going to stay at the winery."
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so or they'll have somebody come pick you up or whatever the answer is, but like that winery will be the end of your biking trip for that day.
So that would be a great way, just after our experience walking through Umbria, and stopping at the wineries. That would be a great way. And especially that time of year, right? Temperatures in the 60s and 70s, right? So you've got a little bit of layers and stopping to have that wine. So we've picked out a couple of those. We will link those for you so that it'll be easy for you to find those. But yeah, that's definitely okay. What else?
Another way to do this is you can take some small river cruises on the Douro River, starting in Porto and go down the river. And from there, you'll be able to get off at different wine estates and go and tour those wineries. And like I said, even if you don't drink wine, these places are beautiful. I mean, just the scenic views with the vineyards rolling down the hills. I would go to one of these even if I didn't drink wine.
Yeah, and a lot of these so with those river cruises, like, they already have some of those experiences built in, right? So getting off, probably doing, like, what we got to do in Umbria, going to the wine estates and learning about their history and their wine and stuff as well. And if you didn't wanna do the whole thing as a river cruise, you can also do, like, a smaller boat ride between the wine estates, right?
Yes.
Like for a day or 2, just depending, if you didn't wanna do the whole river cruise excursion. So lots of options there.
Yeah, it's kinda like we did the wine train in South Africa. Here, they have little small boats that go from, one estate to the other.
So which one do you think you wanna try first?
Well, I think we should do both. Let's just do both.
Yeah, I totally agree. That would be fantastic, but doing a river cruise, we have not had the opportunity to do that yet, and so that's definitely, on our list.
Yeah, but, getting out, being in the fresh air, walking through the wineries, and walking through these vineyards with Max, like, I don't know, that's hard to choose.
100%. Maybe we should do it and then say, "Okay, here's this experience and here's this experience," so that we can show them
I
both.
wanna try the bike tour as
Yeah, I
well.
do too. Yeah,
And we saw people doing that when we were in Umbria.
we did. You can do the biking, but they also offer the e-bikes so
Yeah.
that you have a couple of different, skill levels taken care of. If something like they look at the bikes and make sure everything's good and, you're not just kind of on your own. So that's what I like about that.
Well, we're gonna cross the globe to another region that has been on our list. It's somewhere that, we would like to do this. We don't have it planned yet. However, I was sitting here as we were planning for this episode, and I was even asking you, I was like, is there any way we could fit in one more trip this year? And that's to Oaxaca, Mexico for the Day of the Dead festivals. And I think the real name of it is Dia de los Muertos. And that's from October 31st through November 2nd. And it's such a rich cultural experience with lots of tradition and cuisine all kind of blended into that. And they say if you're a photographer, like this is one of the most fabulous times of the year to be there because you've got all of the costumes, you've got all of the flowers, you've got street performances that are going on in nearly every corner of the city. Lots of parades through the streets, skeleton masks, giant puppets, traditional dancers. I just want to be there and photograph all this.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I think the other thing that I would do for something like this is I would book some kind of tour with a local so that they could explain a lot of the history and the culture around that day, right? And the celebrations and the remembrance as well. I think that would be very meaningful.
Well, it is described as a very respectful cultural experience. It's not a Halloween party. So this isn't just taking the US, Halloween and extending it down into Mexico. It's very deeply meaningful celebration of life and remembrance. And so as any travelers are going to Oaxaca or any of these regions for this festival, they should come with, that cultural curiosity and respect and learn more about what it is that they're celebrating and remembering in this holiday.
So, besides it being Dia de los Muertos, why else is it a good time to go in the fall?
Well, it's ideal weather. Being in Mexico in the summer is rough, it's brutal. And so now you're dealing with temperatures that are in the 70s. So it's just a really good time of the year to be there. And as you kind of mentioned, there's lots of opportunities because they want you to come and be a part of this festival. They actually are encouraging visitors to come and understand this culture. And so during that time, they have lots of hands on demonstrations. There's cooking classes and culinary tours that you can go on. And so this is a really good time of year to visit Oaxaca. And Oaxaca is the home of mezcal. So if you're a fan of mezcal, you can go there and see where this drink comes from.
So, two comments. Number one, we have a friend that used to, when they were our neighbor, used to make me Oaxaca old fashions, right? So,
Mhm.
old fashioned, but with the mezcal instead of a whiskey or a bourbon. And so ever since then, like I've wanted to visit. And even when we were in Cabo, right? I think that was our first experience with mezcal. But then cooking class, we sign us up, right? We've gotten to do two in Mexico, actually, one in Riviera Maya and one in Cabo. And yeah, just having that flavor and the tradition and learning. So it would be great to do one in this area. So definitely sign us up for that.
Are you looking to plan your next unforgettable adventure? At Sunshine Travelers Experiences, we specialize in helping you create tailor made travel journeys that turn your vacation dreams into reality. Whether you're craving a relaxing beach escape, an awe inspiring cultural journey, or a thrilling outdoor adventure, we can help. Why choose Sunshine Travelers Experiences? Personalized itineraries designed just for you, expert travel advice and insider tips, seamless booking from start to finish, exclusive access to top destinations and hidden gems. We also book cruises, all-inclusives, groups, tours, and so much more. If you're unsure where to even start planning that bucket list trip, start by asking us. Then let Sunshine Travelers Experiences handle the planning so you can focus on making the memories. Explore now, sunxtravel.com. If you have any questions, email us info@sunshinetravelers.com. So let's hop back over to Europe. This time we're going to go to France and we're going to go to the Dordogne or Luberon regions. And I may be butchering those names.
No, I think the Luberon. I think that's close, if not correct. I have been seeing a lot of France travel and not, not Paris, not Riviera, but just this region, right? So thinking medieval villages, food markets, truffle season in the fall. And so that would be neat to like do a tour or stay at a place where they go out and show you that. Fewer crowds, right? That summer travel season has ended. So this time of year, it makes it ideal for photography and slower travel. And also renting a car and just going from town to town through the charming countryside and exploring some of these towns and villages.
Both of these regions are dotted with hilltop villages. And so that would remind us a lot of what we experienced when we were walking through Umbria. Cobblestone streets, these centuries old stone houses. And as you're walking around and meandering through those streets, getting a lot of those really cool pictures, just perfect slow travel.
So Dordogne is known for its castles and its prehistoric cave art, which I've actually seen quite a few videos on this, and a lot of little small river towns. And then Luberon features lots of little villages, all surrounded by vineyards and golden hills, and just would be just magical in the fall.
Yeah, so this gives you the opportunity to get your 4-star charm at 3-star prices going in the shoulder season. And then because this place is so popular in July and the summers, it's really hard to get reservations at a lot of the restaurants. And so here in the shoulder season, you can get your dinner reservations that you may not be able to get earlier in the year. We do suggest that listeners that are interested in this region that they go between late September and mid November. That's when the markets are going to be bustling. It's not quite as congested from a traffic perspective. There's a lot of boutique hotels that run specials that bundle tastings or cooking classes. So, a great value for your dollar in going during this time of year.
And so we mentioned that, renting a car, choosing a few places and spending, I don't know, a few days or a couple of days in each place. But Scott, Max Adventure might also be a great option for seeing some different places in France as well.
Yeah, they have quite a few offerings in France. France is one of those places where we've just kind of dipped in.
Mhm.
So we've been to Paris a couple of times and we've seen a lot of Paris. I still want to go back and go to Versailles because we haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. But I also want to spend time just in the countryside of France exploring. One time I was there and stayed in the chateau that was built like in the 12th century. I mean, it dated way back. And over the years, they had added on to it and remodeled it. And so I've said, like, one fall or one winter, I want to go and rent one of these chateaus. And they've got these huge fireplaces. And I just want to keep a fire rolling in that fireplace like all afternoon long and just sit there and enjoy it.
That sounds fantastic. And the other thing we should add is France is so well connected with its trains, right? And high speed trains that you can easily get from Paris out. So if you don't want to have a car in Paris, because Paris would be a really good jumping off point, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get to, from a lot of places. And so you could take a train too, and then see if you want to explore further where it would be difficult, then rent a car or do one of the walks. Or you could just see if doing some of the train and looking into like a rail pass or something might be a good option as well.
The next place that's on our list that we think you ought to check out is the Azores. And this has been described as nature's best kept secret. It's, kind of like a mixture between Iceland, Hawaii, and the Alps, all at a fraction of the price.
Yeah. So you may have seen this if you've seen people talk about the Hawaii of Europe. This is what they're talking about. And so the Azores are actually a part of Portugal, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the map, they are actually a good way off of the coast, right? So, like, if you look at the map, it's like they're out in the middle of the ocean, kind of like Hawaii, right? And so, from the East Coast, and some of these flights are seasonal, but when you could get direct flights, it could actually be like 4.5 hours from the East Coast. Otherwise, you are going to need to go to Europe and then fly to the Azores, but they look absolutely spectacularly breathtaking.
So what are we going to do in the Azores? What's the attraction there?
All right. So known for hiking trails, hot springs, crater lakes. So it's, volcanic, right? So that's why the comparison to Hawaii to Iceland, right? Because you have that volcanic. So just exploring, taking your hiking boots and planning to do that.
Well, they have very mild weather that goes until November. So you can expect a lush green year round there. But September through early November is probably one of the best times to visit. It is very affordable compared to mainland Europe. And like Melissa said, during certain times of the year, there are direct flights from the US. So from the east coast of the US to the Azores is like a 4 to 5 hour flight. So you probably want to watch out for some of those deals. And also, here you're going to want to look for boutique hotels and guest houses that have just absolutely stunning views. And some of them can even be found for under $150 a night during this season.
So if you've ever wanted to feel like you've discovered a place before everyone else, the Azores are it. Now it's gaining in popularity. So get this booked and go. It's still wild and peaceful and surprisingly, close to home for us on the East Coast. And I want to give one other tip that I saw recently. Somebody that I knew went, and she said, slow down and don't try to see or do too many places. So her tip at the end was we just thought, if we just go see this one more place, this one more island, and then we would come home. And in hindsight, she said, I wish we would have spent that one more day to spend another day in, the place they were before. So maybe pick a place or two and just immerse yourselves and try to, say, okay, we're going to try to see everything because you're not anyway. So I just wanted to pass along that tip because that's something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. It's kind of like what we said for Iceland, where I can't see the whole thing. So let's make sure that we immerse ourselves and, do an extra hike or something like that instead of traveling so far or driving so far.
Well, this last one is for people who are like, okay, listen, guys, we're not going to be traveling all over the world. We're not going to go to all these places. So, what are some places in the US that would be good, non typical fall trips?
So, how about the US desert Southwest, as in Arizona, North Arizona, up into the Utah's national parks?
I think that's great. I haven't spent a lot of time in this area. I know you've been to one of the parks that we're going to talk about. And so why don't you tell us a little bit more about why is this area somewhere that you'd want to consider for the fall?
Because it is so hot in the summer, like you've mentioned for some of these other places. But in September through early November, it can be ideal hiking conditions and probably even into December, right? We have found for part of this. So daytime temperatures can range in the 60s and 70s, mornings cooler and evenings. So again, layers like we always talk about. But that summer heat is gone. And then the crowds thin out because this is a place where I think a lot of families go, take a lot of kids during summer breaks as well. So, especially by mid October. And so, October was the time of the year that I visited a couple of these places.
So take us through a few of the places that we're recommending people to take a look at and to think about.
Okay. So, national parks, and then I'll talk about kind of what we did. But Zion National Park, towering sandstone cliffs, the famous Narrows hike through the river could be a great idea. So let's say you just have a long weekend, probably plan on one of these and then make sure that you still look into park reservations and tours and things like that, depending on their popularity, because you don't want to get out there and not be able to get in. Bryce Canyon is another one, surreal hoodoos and amphitheaters that just glow at sunrise. Capitol Reef, Red Rock rock domes, orchards, hidden petroglyphs. Arches National Park, so over 2,000 natural stone arches, iconic at golden hour. And then Canyonlands National Park, vast canyons and mesas. And again, this time of year, fewer visitors and just more solitude, which is a great way to see these. So if you've ever been to a national park, like when it's packed out, then you know what I mean, right? It's just people and cars, and it's hard to find parking and all that. So that would be the allure of going this time of the year.
And which one of these did you go to?
So I actually went to Monument Valley National Park. So right into Utah. So none of these, but right into Utah from Arizona.
So of these 5 that we just talked about, they're known as the Mighty 5, which I didn't know that. That was something that I found out in doing some of the research. And they're all within like a 5 to 6 hour driving loop. So if you want to make this a bucket list worthy road trip, either as a couple or with some friends or your family, you can kind of combine these together and do them all at the same time. I think the key here is making sure that you're planning in advance, because even though it is shoulder season, there are a lot of people who kind of think the same way, as this is a good time to go and visit. So some of the accommodations at these places may book up.
So good point. Definitely get your national park pass. So if you're going to visit a lot of these, it'll be more than pay for itself, but look for national park reservations. Again, some of the popular ones, and then also look to see if you need reservations for specific hikes. So if you are a hiker, that is something that you're going to need. So some of these like have limits for the number of people per day and stuff like that, which I think is great to protect these places. I think it's frustrating if you don't know. So just be aware of those if you're planning a trip.
Well, like I said, if you're thinking about that, go ahead right now and start planning your trip so that you can make sure that you can get accommodations in these places. October is probably the sweet spot from a weather perspective, and there's definitely fewer people there. But like I said, those accommodations still fill up fast, and you don't want to find yourself out there with no place to stay.
Right. So let me just add a little bit different loop, just real quick, that I did in October, which was actually a great time to go. So it was in and out of Phoenix. And so we were able to go up to like the Lake Powell area, do Horseshoe Bend, and then do one of the slot canyons that you definitely need to make a reservation for, and then drive up into Monument Valley. And the reason I said that, I mean, it's a great time because there were a few other people, but not just like masses of cars there. You could also tack on the Grand Canyon, just depending on how many days you have, or spend some time in Scottsdale. And then from Scottsdale, you could go over to Saguaro National Park, which again, in the summer would be so hot. And so that's another kind of loop that's a little bit further south, more Arizona, but another thing that October would be a great time to do that. And so we have actually a couple of episodes about Arizona where we've talked about some of that. And so we will link those as well. So Scott, of these 5, what would you say is the top of your list?
I think top of my list would be Oaxaca.
Oaxaca. Okay. Nice. I definitely want to do that. I think the Azores are probably at the top of my list.
Well, we'll have to figure out how to make both of those happen.
Good.
When you look beyond the usual, fall becomes a canvas for discovery, full of flavor, color, and culture. If you're ready to trade the leaf piles for something new, we'd love to help you plan your next great escape. Visit SunX Travel, Sun, the letter X, travel.com, and let us help you create a fall trip that's anything but ordinary. Until next time, the world is full of sunshine and surprises. Make 2025 the year to explore beyond the familiar. That's a wrap on this episode. We hope it gave you some inspiration for your next adventure.
If you enjoyed the show, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others find us and keeps the travel conversations going.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss a new episode.
And come hang out with us on Instagram or Facebook at Sunshine Travelers Podcast. That's Travelers with 1 L.
Most importantly, share this episode with a friend. You never know, they just might become your next great travel companion.